There was an actual trade today that will be made official next week. Field Yates, I mean, tweeted this out, and it really is so shocking when you see it in person, just in black and white. Since 2017, Les Snead has used his team's own first-round draft choice on a player once. There's Jared Verse in 2024. Otherwise, it has been. Right. Isn't that amazing? I mean, yeah. and he nailed it. So, and you could see the Jaguars' choices were for Jalen Ramsey, and the Lions' choices were for Matthew Stafford. So it's not just anybody, right? Yeah. And the Falcons one that he traded to the Falcons was for one this year that is higher than the one that he traded to the Chiefs. So Trent McDuffie goes there now, and walk me through what it means for both of these teams.
Yeah, so I'd say for the Rams, it kind of shows where they're at. It's also, I think, a little bit of a pivot philosophically on where they've been. And that if you look at like the few years since Jalen Ramsey left there, they sort of started to view the corner position as a little bit disposable, and that the saying I've heard from that sort of tree is that like we view corners as speed bumps, not stop signs in today's NFL. It's hard to find guys who can, really impact the game because it's too easy to throw away from them. So this, I think feels like a little bit of a rollback of that philosophy. Maybe they took it too far. And this is very clearly a need for them. They tried to fix it in season last year and trading for Roger McCreary from the Titans. And I think it's also like a recognition of where they're at in that, they've got a quarterback who is 38, I believe, right? I think he just turned 38,
yes,
38 years old. And they've got a team with a ton of players who are, on their rookie contracts and won't be cheap forever. So they've got some flexibility to do this. And that's guys, like Jared Verse, like Kobe Turner, like Braden Fisk, like Puka Nacua. They've got a ton of those guys that have become really good players for them at a young age. And now, and right now, with those guys on rookie contracts, they got the flexibility to go and take a swing on this. When that's a credit to them for drafting as well as they have. And I think, Trent is, anybody who's been around Trent McDuffie knows this is a all-pro player and an all-pro person. So there's not a huge risk here. You know what you're getting. And he's a scheme fit for what Chris Shula wants to do. His college coach, Jimmy Lake, is there. So all that checks out. As for the Chiefs, this is kind of the consequence of having a roster that is top heavy, and they're sort of on the other end of that rookie contract spectrum, right? Like I mentioned that with all the guys the Rams have. Well, recently the Chiefs have started having to pay their guys. So that's Trey Smith, that's Creed Humphrey, that's George Karlaftis, that's Nick Bolton. They've actually drafted really well. They've retained a lot of those guys, but you can't pay everybody. And, they tried to do Trent last year, and Trent McDuffie wanted to do a contract at the top of the market, and Trey Smith was at the top of the guard market, and George Karlaftis was getting a big deal, so they couldn't get it done then. And they went into this offseason with a recognition after Stingley and Sauce Gardner signed that if this was going to get done, the number in the APY was going to have to start with a 3. Mm-hmm. And so, I think the way they look at it is this gives them a chance to restock a little bit, to draft well. It's a position that they've developed incredibly well under Steve Spagnuolo with the secondary coach there, Dave Merritt. They developed L'Jarius Sneed, Charvarius Ward, Jalen Watson, McDuffie himself. And so, they've got confidence they can develop that position. And again, you just can't pay everybody. So where can you cut a corner? Where can you cheat it a little bit? I mean, they think they've sort of looked at this as that's a place where, maybe we can get by with young developmental players on the roster while we're paying guys in other positions. And oh, by the way, this might open up the door for them to go after somebody like Kenneth Walker next week.
Interesting. Okay. Now that's a nice breadcrumb right there. So 4 draft choices. I know that Les F's the picks, but 4 draft choices means McDuffie's going to get that contract extension here in LA.
Yep.
Do you think?
Yeah, okay. They've given the Rams permission.
Okay.
My understanding is they've already talked, and the goal is that the contract is done upon execution of the trade.
Okay.
So right now, I think the number's 13.6 or 13.9, one of those two, that McDuffie's fifth-year option, that's the number.
Mm-hmm.
So the goal for the Rams would be to have, a new contract done and simultaneously execute the trade and execute a new contract. I don't know if anything is guaranteed at this point, but, I think if you're making this trade, you've been apprised of what the contract negotiation has been and where Trent McDuffie's camp has been on this, which is, I'm a first-team All-Pro corner. I should be paid at the top of the market, which is obviously justifiable. So if you're the Rams, you have to acknowledge this is why he's being traded. So if we're going to trade for him, then we have to make this part of it right for him. So I would think that they're on the same page there. They've got the permission to work out an extension over the next 7 days. The trade can't be executed until next Wednesday, and my guess would be the contract and the trade happen simultaneously, although nothing's guaranteed.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Check us out every single day streaming live on Disney Plus and the ESPN app 12 to 3 Eastern.